Folks, with the season in full swing, we have 5 prospects that you need to keep your eyes locked on, and we also have 5 players that are injured and that you need to get stashed on your IL as soon as possible on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Onne, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Onne. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below or subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio side of things on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us as well. And lastly, and what's truly most important to you guys and Matt and I this time of year, as I mentioned earlier, the baseball season is in full swing, and you need that competitive edge, that just thing that's going to give you the advantage over your opponents, and that's going to be joining Matt and I on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth, personalized experience. Through text message alerts, sending it right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in these 30-minute episodes, including but not limited to our waiver wire rankings, where when we do our waiver wire episode, we jump in, we give you a full ranking of those guys, priority you should be picking them up in, and a little bit in depth about them. And then also, we're talking prospects today, those call-up alerts. So when these guys get called up, you're getting those notifications before anybody else. So join us on Subtext. Link is in the bio, wherever you're listening, watching, or it's available on any of our social media platforms. And all right, Matt, today we got 5 prospects, some really big names. We did a prospect episode last week. These are some names that we did not get on that episode. So these are some really fun names that we're going to talk about here that you should definitely be paying attention to. And then we also got 5 injured players that you got to add them. You got to get them on your IL stashed because they're big names. You got to pay attention. Great episode. Stay locked on for the whole episode. But Matt, my brother, who do we have up first?
Yeah, so I just want to clarify what we're doing today too. This is a stash episode through and through. These are guys you're either putting on those watch lists or you're adding them to your back of your bench and then just holding on. So I feel like one of the better names in terms of prospects this year that isn't Roman Anthony and isn't others that we spoke about before is Marcelo Mayer, the forgotten Boston Red Sox prospect, essentially, right? He's been a top prospect for the longest time. And even had a really nice spring this year when he was just didn't break camp like Campbell. 36 at bats, 6 runs, 2 triples, a bomb, 11 ribs, batted .333, 8 walks to 11 strikeouts, OBP of 455, a slug of 528, an OPS of 982. Dude has some great bats, like plate discipline. You look at what he's did in the minors, about 50% walks to strikeouts, etc. Looking good that way. Last year in the minors looked pretty stellar as well. Through 300 at bats, he had 60 runs, 28 doubles, 8 bombs, 38 ribs, 13 stolen bases, and batted .307. Kid looks like he's gonna, when he hits the bigs, anywhere from a 20 guy, or 20-25 guy. It's interesting though because you look at like what Fangraphs ranks him, and they got him ranked out of raw power at a 55 out of 60, game power 45 out of 55, and the speed 40-40, which is interesting too. So maybe there's something we're just not seeing show up in the stat line yet, since he's only 22 years old. Maybe this season's the year we see a step forward in those categories and start seeing what the professional analytic guys are seeing from these players, and maybe there'll be an output from Marcelo Mayer this year. And if that's the case, he's a guy I'm going to want to get on. So he's a guy I'm paying attention to. I'm not adding. It's not going to sit at the end of my bench. But there is a world and way where he's called up because of an injury too, because there's a very short bench going on in Boston. But if we start seeing a true breakout where, spring training translates, we see a little bit more game power, we're seeing the speed, I'm going to be stashing him, getting closer and closer to Super 2, because there's going to be a world where, hey, he might be a true fantasy impact player midseason.
Yeah, Matt, great call there on Mayer. I'm a fan as well. A slow start, through the first 2 games so far this season down in the minors and AAA. But he had a big spring. Mayer had a really good spring. He played 20 games. He had 2 triples, a homer, 11 RBIs. He hit 333. He had 8 walks to 11 strikeouts. I think Boston just really had to take their pick. They went with Campbell. He's been solid so far. Anthony, is down there smashing in the minors. I'm sure May will pick it up soon as well. As Matt mentioned, not really a guy I'm adding, unless it's like a super, super deep league, AL only, a league where you have NA spots. Maybe you could think about a guy like Mayer. He is up to 8% owned on Yahoo. So he is a little bit owned, so he's not available in every single league, but he is available in a lot of leagues. I have a lot of faith in the guy, Matt. I think your call on the 2025 is kind of spot on. What you expect from Mayer full season, as he gets developed over the next couple of years. But if he gets called up this year, 15-15, it's not a range, hitting 280. This Boston Red Sox team is, looking like they're going to be able to score some runs besides Rafael Devers. But hey, maybe he gets moved and a guy like, Mayer gets a chance. So definitely somebody, Marcelo Mayer, Boston Red Sox, you want to keep your eyes on him. Let's move on to this next guy. Let's talk about Jordan Lawler. Interesting name. He's been a top prospect for a while. Has dealt with injuries. I feel like a lot of the Diamondbacks prospects have dealt with injuries over the last few years. But Lawler's back, had a good spring training himself. 13 games played in spring training for Lawler, 34 at-bats, 6 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, a homer, 4 RBIs, 2 steals, 4 walks to 8 strikeouts. He had 294. Kind of was hitting on all kind of cylinders there, was kind of doing a little bit of everything you'd like to see. And the thing with Lawler is, once again, that health. But if he can get himself healthy and playing in that Diamondbacks lineup at some point this year, which is possible. I mean, he's struggling down in his first 3 games at AAA. Only 1 hit so far through his first 10 at-bats. But he does have 3 walks to 4 strikeouts, so you like to see that. Lawler's a guy, I think mid-season call-up is definitely possible. He's probably maybe even a little bit more owned on Yahoo than Mayer. I'd venture to guess, just because of the pedigree and the fact that he's been in the majors already. Actually, 8% owned as well. So, kind of in the same spot there as Mayer. I do like Lawler, a little bit more known for his speed. It's got a little bit of pop in that bat. But he's a guy that can go out there in a full season, maybe get you 30, 40 bags, maybe chip in, 15-ish, 20-ish home runs, could hit you 275. I think if he gets himself into a good spot in that lineup in Arizona, gets to the bigs, could score some runs too. I like Lawler. Fun little prospect. Keep your eyes on him. Could get the call. Honestly, I think sooner than later if he gets himself hitting, but it's just got to monitor to see if he does get hitting, because if he doesn't, he's not going to earn himself that spot.
Yeah, Lawler is interesting because the profile, the pedigree, and the hype around him coming up was pretty high. At one point, I think he was a top 10 prospect. I don't think he is right now. I think he's fallen into the 20s, and it says something. And he already's gotten a taste of the bigs as well. So I'm a little hesitant. I'm not really going to add him unless he actually gets the call, because he's already had a taste of the bigs and was unsuccessful all the way through the World Series. So with Lawler, I'm kind of just like taking a step back. I'm going, okay, let's see what happens. If he does get hot in the minors, he's worth an ad, but he's not somebody I'm really excited for in terms of adding, at least. The best way to explain this is he could be the next Joe Adell, where he is just really, really good in the minors, and then he gets the bigs and he completely chokes, and it is what it is. So it's a very, very volatile, I guess, finish for him is where I'm getting at, where we just don't know exactly what side of the coin we're going to get. I hope that he does good, but there's a world where he doesn't. So in dynasty leagues, I'm probably trying to move him with the prospect pedigree, and in redraft leagues, I'm keeping an eye on him. So I'm just kind of just being very conservative when it comes to Lawler, and I'm not getting my my expectations set too high. But coming up next, we got some great prospects, quite honestly, that we've covered, that we haven't covered yet. Got names like Zack Veen, Emmanuel Rodriguez, and more coming up on the other side of this break. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce servings has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep you fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shell variety, which I truly do. It's perfect grab go snack for a busy day. Whether you're snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always on the go too. Because I got kids, sometimes I just don't have time or anything. It's just a quick, easy snack. And I also do love cracking open a shell and satisfying that crunch. The in shell option is always a true favorite. I'm sitting at the bar, just hanging out. I love cracking them open and snacking on them. So get snacking, get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Look, you want to win this season? The only one way to do it. It's with us on the Subtext, because you're going to get these prospect call-up notifications ahead every time. You're going to get rankings of your waiver wires daily. I mean, not daily. Right after the episode, essentially, and you're going to be able to ask us questions. Is this trade good? Grade this trade. Should I add this guy? Should I drop this guy? You're going to be able to get it before that. We only have 30 minutes a day here. The way to get more out of it is checking us out on the Subtext. So that being said, join today. Links in the description below. Now, Dom, I did a lot of talking. I'm excited for this next guy, though. And that's Zack Veen of the Colorado Rockies. I got him queued up, so I'm just going for it.
Yeah, sure.
My guy had a really nice spring. I'm not going to lie. 63 at bats, 13 runs, 4 doubles, a triple, 2 bombs, 11 ribs, 9 stolen bases, 7 walks to 21 strikeouts, but still managed to put together a 270 batting average, an OBP of 352, a slug of 460, and an OPS of 812. Kid has some wheels. He is fast as hell. He had 22 stolen bases in 172 at bats. 21 and 233 at bats. Like kid's got wheels. Hits for a decent average, a 258 batting average season, a 333. Then there's some like weird ones in there. Oh, sorry. And there's some weird ones like a 209. But so far in the minors this year, he's batting about 364. He's already got a stolen base, and he's just looking good. I got to say, I'm excited to see what he's going to do. The power isn't really there for me, even though I see it somewhat in his prospect portfolio. 40 game power out of 45, 55 raw power out of 60, speed 70 out of 70, and the fielding is 50 out of 60. Why I mentioned fielding, because it's going to keep him on the field. Look, the kid makes it up. I think he stays up. Rockies are playing pretty much for nothing. So I think there's an urgency to get this kid up. It's just a matter of control. I wouldn't be surprised if he's up after Super 2. So with Veen, he's going to be a great source of stolen bases. He might be able to contribute when he's home in that power category, and I think he'll be able to at least hit 250. And that's going to be key, but don't rely on him for runs or ribs, because there's literally nobody around him. And you could say Chris Bryant, but he's seeing a back specialist and a chiropractor more than he's seeing the ball on the plate. So, it is what it is. Zack Veen is going to be an interesting focal point of that team.
Yeah, man. Great take on Veen there. Honestly, I really don't have too much to add. He's 3% owned on Yahoo. And yeah, man, great take. I believe in everything he said. I think he's somebody who could be called up sooner than later, because the Rockies don't really have anything else to lose or put out there on the field. And Veen himself is just a guy who's been injured a lot, so be careful. Could be, could be considered a little bit injury prone at this point in his career. But once again, Matt, great take there. Let's move on to this next guy. Let's talk about Emmanuel Rodriguez of those Minnesota Twins, outfielder. Kid's one of the best prospects in the game. Was dealing with a little bit of a thumb issue after his first game, but they're saying he should be back, within the next couple of days. But he did have a very big first game. He had 4 at-bats, 3 hits. One of them was a double, 2 RBIs, a walk, and a strikeout. So you know what? He was on base a lot in that first game. Love to see it from him. Last year in 2024, only 47 games played, had 157 at-bats, but he was smashing during that time period with 14 doubles, 9 homers, 9 steals, 280. The kid's finally starting to come into his own. He's been in the minors for a few years now, but really took off in 2024, moved up a lot of prospect rankings. I believe he's like in the top 30 or so in most spots. Age 2 this year, and he could be really, really good. Really, like I said, and that Twins team, once again, another team that really doesn't have a lot, that really is going to be holding a guy like Rodriguez back. So you know what? Once again, he's a guy that you can just add to your watch list. Keep an eye on how he's doing in the minors. Like I said, had a very big first game. So I like really what Rodriguez could bring to the table. And once again, 36th prospect according to MLB.com. Above average power, above average speed. Another guy with a decent glove, but his arm is really what he's known for out in the field. So like Matt always says, if he could at least play some defense, it's going to keep him out there. Emmanuel Rodriguez, once again, outfielder for those Minnesota Twins prospect.
Yeah, what do you call it? I'm not mad at what you said. Quite honestly, I don't know how excited I am to get him, other than the fact that I'm always looking for a bat to kind of make a difference, and these young guys come out of nowhere and sometimes overperform too. So it's worth a shot. He's not a guy I'm adding directly. Again, just a watch list guy. I always watch probably about like 20 prospects going into each season, just based off of just, okay, one of these guys got a hit, and I just want to be on top of it. So yeah, definitely a guy worth watching. This next guy, though, is interesting. It's Bubba Chandler of the Pittsburgh Pirates, pitching prospect, and didn't really have a great spring. Pitched about 2 innings, but I mean, again, that's like a small sample size, so you can't really judge it. 2 innings, 19.29 ERA. Didn't give up a home run though. Walked about 4 guys, gave up 5 earned runs, had about 2 strikeouts, and had a whip of 3. So yeah, it was a rough outing, but whatever. Look, he's young. He's still only 21 years old, and I don't think he might come up this year. If he does, it's going to be at the very end of the season. It all depends. I don't foresee them rushing him up, but he's a name you want to keep pay attention to. He has great stuff. Last year in the minors, 119 innings pitched, 148 strikeouts, an ERA of 3. He even had a whip of 101. Kid's got some good stuff. So you look at just how they were ranking his pitching too. His fastball 60 out of 60, sliders 50 out of 55, the changeup's 55 out of 70, and command, which is huge, is 40 out of 50. I love it. The kid has some serious control, and that fastball is pretty dangerous. So I just want to see what he could do, and see if he could really translate. If he does get the call again, it's probably going to be very late in the year. But a name you want to pay attention to, because it could be somebody that could be a true difference maker for your rotation. And again, I wouldn't be holding my breath and stashing him anytime soon, but just keep him on the watch list.
Yeah, man, I like Bubba Chandler a lot. I think him and Skeens are gonna, be the 1-2 there in, Pittsburgh for like the next 10 years. Hopefully, they both have the potential to do it. You talked about his fastball, averages about 97, gets up and touches 99, 100 sometimes. He's really been working on, the secondary stuff. Slider sits around 86, 87, changeup, in the 80s, has a curveball. So you like that he's got that pitch mix going on there. Matt, you spoke about the stats last year, super impressive. I think he comes up around maybe the same time Skeens did last year. I think we kind of see with the Pirates how they handled Skeens, might handle Chandler the same way. And it's as long as the results, as long as Chandler is pitching well and putting up the stats that, we know he can. I think that's what's going to be key to him getting the call up around the same time Skeens did last year. Maybe we see 100 innings of Chandler in the big leagues, similar to Skeens last year. And he could be a big strikeout guy. He could limit runs. The whip, we'll see how it translates to the bigs, because, once you get to the bigs, you give up more hits. It's harder to keep the ball in the zone. So, we'll see how things go. But Bubba Chandler is somebody, probably one of the, out of all the prospects we're talking about today, one of the guys I really, really want to keep my eyes on for when he gets the call up, because he's somebody who'll be super impactful if, once again, he is pitching well. But with that being said, we have some awesome names like Ronnie Mauricio, Tyler Stevenson, and even the vet Clayton Kershaw coming up next. And guys, you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? And especially when it's the top of the month like this, always happens. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you can stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. With their surprising insights, when I first started using Monarch, I realized just how much money I was spending on food delivery. And, Matt and I always say this, guys, it's a lot. So you got to pay attention to it. But now I budget smarter and save more. And their easy collaboration when you manage your money with your partner, it's smoother than ever. You can track your shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take the control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. All right, Matt. And that's a little bit of talking there for me. So you want to jump in and grab this next guy? Matt, I don't know if you're muted. At least I can't hear you.
My bad. I was. So we're talking about Ronnie Mauricio. That's it. The New York Mets. Unfortunately, last year tore his ACL and, pretty much missed a good chunk of the season, if not all of it, actually. He also needed a cleanup procedure in August. So, I don't know when he's planning a return. It looks like maybe April 15th is like the estimated return. We'll see how he's panning out and we'll see what's going on there. You know, I like the possibilities of Mauricio, let's put it that way, but ultimately I'm going to just not have high expectations. The 2023 season was interesting, 101 at bats, 11 runs, 4 doubles, 2 bombs, 9 ribs, 7 stolen bases, and batted 248. That's all well and good for a guy getting his first licks at the bigs. Big dude at 6'4", 166 pounds, which is, an odd skinny, combination. You'd expect him to be about 200 pounds, but who knows? But you look at what he's done over his career in the minors, and he does pack a little bit of a punch. His last year, right before he got called up, 490 at bats, he had 76 runs, 30 doubles, 3 triples, 23 bombs, 71 ribs, 24 stolen bases. Loves to strike out because only walked about 35 times to 97 strikeouts. Still managed to put together a batting average of 292. Look, I might 100% stash him. Like if the going into beginning of next week, where okay, I'll get him a week early. I'll be ahead of the waiver wire. I'll probably be on that waiver wire show, and let's get ahead of the waiver wire and see what's going on. Because the upside's there. He's got speed. He's got a decent amount of pop, and I don't think the batting average is going to be in the 290s. Like I don't think that's going to be a reality with how much he strikes out. But anywhere from 250 to 260, I think is kind of more on the realistic aspect when he has, his first prime year. But you know, I'll definitely take a shot at the team needs it. And, that lineup right there is going to be much better with Mauricio. So all I can say is that's it. And my guy might be a worth of a good stash this year. And if you like that reference, you'll know exactly what that's from. Oh, your mic's muted now. Tag, you're it.
Oh, yeah, I guess we're both off our game a little bit here. But yeah, Matt, I didn't hear everything you said about Mauricio, but what I did hear, I liked. He's somebody who has a lot of upside. Had his ups and downs in 23 when he came up, but he was exciting, right? You love to see how hard he was hitting the ball. You love to see the speed that he brings to the table. He's 6'4", 166. He's got to put on a little bit more weight. You could still be quick if you put on, even if he gets himself up to 180, 185, just put on a little bit more muscle. He's going to start driving the ball out of the park. Matt, you mentioned he's on his way back, right? He should be back sooner than later. I don't know if he gets called right up to the Mets. I don't really see that being feasible, to be honest, just because of how long he hasn't really played in. But I really do think that there's a lot of upside here. Keep your eyes on him, keep him on your watch list, and just see what he brings to the table. Let's move on to this next guy. Let's talk about Shane Bieber a little bit. Shane Bieber, somebody who has a lot of upside, has been an all-star before, been one of the best pitchers in the league before. Should be back around the all-star break. I think we've talked about him a little bit recently. His last time we saw him in 24 was 2 starts, brilliant, 12 innings, 20 strikeouts, 0.9 whip. Is just really one of the better pitchers in the game when he's healthy. Still actually surprisingly only 30 years old. He's been around a long time. But definitely somebody that we need to. I honestly, if you have an IL spot and you missed out on some of the bigger name guys like the Striders and the Woodruffs, and Deary Perez, who we talked about last week, I think Shane Bieber is somebody you could stash. And when he comes back, hey, listen, you might have one of the better pitchers in the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, we've talked about him ad nauseum at this point. Shane Bieber, I think kind of was going to have a really monster year if he didn't go down to TJ. So ultimately, it's definitely worth a shot. We'll see what happens. I think that regardless of the fact he's going to be the effective pitcher, even if he's about 75% of who he really is. So I'm definitely stashing him. It's just a matter of how long we got to wait for him. Then I'm going to hold on to him. There's a guy on our last week episode, Yuri Perez, who had stash over him, but he's a strong second. But let's move on. Let's talk about Tyler Stevenson of the Cincinnati Reds. Look, he's coming back. He should be coming back off the IL on apparently for April 11th. So here's the deal, right? You're down. I don't really like the stash catchers. That's really just where I'm at with it. You know, especially Tyler Stevenson of all people, but he's definitely a name. Like if you have you weren't able to get a catcher, it's a deeper league. I'll probably add him. He's definitely a higher end guy that you probably could hang on to, or two catcher league. I'm definitely trying to stash him. Singer catcher league, shower like 10, 11, 12, or 10, 12, or leagues like that. I'm just not touching him. Once he's up, if I need him, I'll add him. Like if I'm still waiting on Murphy, yeah, I'll add him. But other than that, I'm really not really caring. Like last year was a decent season. 457 at bats, 69 runs, 26 doubles, a triple, 19 bombs, 66 ribs, and batted 258. You know, we're all kind of pretty much chasing what he did in 22 through that short season where he had, 6 home runs, 166 at bats, batted 319. But, he hasn't really been able to repeat that. Power is there when he plays, but he's not an everyday player. And on top of that, you just look at it and he's not a really big batting average guy. So he's not going to be this elite force that's worth, stashing for me, but he's somebody you need to at least keep an eye out on. If when he comes back and you're in a spot or, your catcher is, not playing as often, add Tyler Stevenson, but do not stash him on your IL. I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the kind of format you're in. He's 49% owned on Yahoo, so in my eyes, that's not many two-catcher leagues he's out there in. If he is out there in a two-catcher league, I'd probably say stash him on the IL if you got the spot. Anything shallower than that, maybe your NL onlys if you're in a tough spot at catcher. The news isn't great on his, his return either. MRI says he's 80% healed, so he's just supposed to go another MRI while the Reds are on the road trip from April 3rd to the 9th. So he doesn't plan on traveling with the club. So we'll see where the thing goes with Tyler Stevenson. If you're in a tough spot in one of those leagues I mentioned, a deeper league, a super deep, like a 15-man or deeper, two-catcher, NL only, something like that, maybe throw him on, your IL if you have the extra room for it. But yeah, I'm not reaching for it. We're all, like Matt, you talked about it. We're all thinking about that 25 homer, 280 season potential, and that good Reds lineup. But he has yet to reach it. He's 28. It's just tough because he's been hurt for a lot of his career. A lot of upside. It's going to be tough for him to live up to it. But in the right situation, maybe stash him. Anything shallower than what I spoke about already, wouldn't go for it either. Let's move on to this one of my favorite players to talk about, and I'm happy we can still talk about him because I don't think there's going to be much talking about him left. Clayton Kershaw. You know what? Don't know how much he has left in the tank. Verlander's looked usable, somewhat usable so far, so maybe Kershaw could do it too. Looks like he's still not going to be back to like the end of May, and he's kind of once again a deeper league cut, 19% owned on Yahoo. Once again, if you didn't get the Biebers, the Uries, the Woodruffs, the guys like that, the Striders, maybe Kershaw, deeper league, 15-man. He got a bunch of IL spots. I know his leagues that have unlimited IL spots. Maybe you stash him in a league like that. He can be useful. I think by the time that Kershaw's ready to come back, I'm sure the Dodgers are going to have a few banged up pitchers, and they'll have the spot for him in the rotation. So I won't doubt that. Will he be like a mid-3 ERA guy, under a K per 9, decent whip? Probably, but what is he going to give you? Maybe 10 starts if we're lucky. Deeper league stash, just like to bring up the name Clayton Kershaw because, he's usually still useful when he's out there pitching at least.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, hey, before he went down, he was having a great season. So, I mean, he's pretty much like DeGrom at this point. When he's healthy, he's a great pitcher. And when he's not, he's just on your IL. It is what it is. But he's still not as bad as Chris Bryant. So, it's fine. Let's talk about Kyle Bradish. I don't know if you can't tell, I really do have a thing against Chris Bryant, I guess. So Kyle Bradish is, if you don't know who he is, he's the pitcher for the Baltimore Orioles. and he went down to Tommy John's last year. And man, I really thought he was going to have a great year. Unfortunately, that injury happened, and he was posing to have it too. 39 innings, 53 strikeouts, and ERA of 2.75, a WHIP of 106, was looking good. Following up from the year before in 23, where he had 168 innings for 168 strikeouts, a 2.83 ERA, with a WHIP of 104. Like, it was really disappointing to see Bradish go down. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was probably the most disappointed person on the planet for him, and other than himself, probably. He's not due back till the end of the season, hence why he's a guy that we're just mentioning. I'm not stashing him yet. We get to the end of May, and that's where he'll probably end up on my team. You know, I want to see where it's going. I want to see his progressions. I want to make sure he's not, having any setbacks. But if I start hearing he's throwing pitches and doing simulated games already, or at least starting a throwing program, that's where I'm going to try and get in. I didn't realize how much time it is. So, Dom, unfortunately, you're not going to be allowed to talk. I'm silencing you. You're censored. So, shush. And guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Do everything you can to share this podcast because we truly love doing it every single day. So, yeah, check it out, and don't information hoard. Share it with your friends. You're only as good as your competition. Make it better, and then you'll be better. All right, guys. Peace out, and check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB when you're done here. Peace.
See ya.